Hey there, everybody. My name is Alexis Ward, and this is 12 Faces Psychology. So today's video is about people pleasing. It's an epidemic. And the first part of the video, I'm going to kind of focus on why people pleasing is not the generous act that people who do it believe it to be. And then the second half is going to be about what the benefits of letting that habit go are. All right, so I'm going to list off 6 different things that are reasons I've come up with as to why people pleasing really is a disservice to both people involved. The first of those is it's really about controlling outcomes. You know, most people that are people pleasers think that they're just like really nice and that they're accommodating everyone around them and that this is a service that they're doing to humanity. Basically, they're a martyr. And so essentially, being a people pleaser and telling people what they want to hear, or saying you like things that you don't really like, doing things when you don't really want to do them, is a hotbed of resentment. And it's more about controlling outcomes and manipulating your external reality than it is about providing something to the other person. So if you tell a person the truth, then they have all the information, right? And they can make an informed decision, and you can see what fits organically between you and other people in your life. But if you are giving a false sense of what your desires are, what your boundaries are, what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy, you're not doing yourself or the other person a favor. You're really not giving them the information that they need to make an informed choice about how to engage with you. So controlling external outcomes is really one of the most non-beneficial aspects of people pleasing, because you're not allowing things to happen organically and authentically with you and the people around you. You're giving a distorted view of who you are and what you're willing to do, and inherently then you're obligating yourself to things that you may not really want, and out of that grows resentment. All right, so the second thing is it robs a person of their free choice. And what I mean by that is that if you're giving somebody the sense of, let's say you go on a first date with somebody and they're like, oh, I just love to go skydiving. And you're like, that's the last thing on the planet that I want to do, but I really like this person. So I'm like, oh my God, I love skydiving. And you're totally just being full of shit. Is this relationship off to a good start? Is this the direction we want to head in? A lot of times people think you're putting your best foot forward when you do that, but really you're relegating yourself to disappointment, because ultimately when that person discovers that you have misled them in terms of who you are and what you're about, they're, number one, not going to trust you as much, and number two, going to be disappointed because the things that they thought you shared, actually you don't share. Okay. Number 3 is it perpetuates inauthenticity and manipulation. So we've kind of touched on that already, you know, that basically this begins a cycle of lying, essentially. It begins a cycle of sort of massaging the truth, exaggerating or minimizing how you really feel, that not only gets you to a place where the person that you're in relationship with isn't sure what to trust or what to believe about you, but also you don't know what the hell's going on with you. Because if you're spending all your time trying to think, what do I need to give this person in order to get the relationship that I want from them, you start to lose sight of who you really are and what you really want. And you start to fall out of a level of certainty and self-trust that's very important. All right, number 4. It leads to passive aggressive behavior, resentment, and being a martyr. So basically, if you are living under the delusion that it is better to do for others than to do for yourself, I hope you can let that shit go, because ultimately there needs to be a give and take between these things. And the sooner that you show up willing to say, this is what I want, this is what's real for me, this is what's true for me, this is where my boundaries are, I'm good with this, I'm not good with that, the more easily somebody can say, oh, okay, well, that part fits for me and that part doesn't. All right, here's how we connect where both of us are happy. But if you're all over the place with that information and not being truthful and trying to manipulate the other person into wanting you and all of this stuff, ultimately that bubble's going to burst eventually. So, number 5 is it prevents trust in relationships, and it also prevents self-trust. So I touched on this a little bit already, but when you are consistently painting a false picture of who you are, what you want, what you're about, what your beliefs are, people aren't going to know who you are. And they're going to feel like they're connecting with a ghost, like they're connecting with a false sense of identity that you've created and not with you as you are. And when you do that, you are negating the opportunity to be loved as you truly are. It also prevents you from trusting yourself, right? Because you're not showing up saying, this is who I am and I like me and I'm proud of me. And I am in no way afraid to say that, no, I don't like skydiving. It's not my deal. So if you want to have real, solid, authentic, trusting relationships, both with other people and with yourself, you got to bring the real, you got to come to it with an authentic perspective and the willingness to say no when you really don't mean yes, So number 6 is, how would you want to be treated? And this is kind of a question that I think if you're in a people-pleasing habit, this is the most important question for you to ask yourself, because it kind of flips the thinking of people-pleasing on its head, right? Most people-pleasers are like, oh, well, I don't want to upset them. Oh, well, I want them to be happy. Oh, well, I want them to like me. Oh, well, I want them to do that. Your focus is entirely out there on the other person. But I want you to instead think, if I was that other person and I was asking the question, would I want them to be honest with me? Or would I want them to lie and just kind of capitulate to what they think I want? Almost all of the time, the answer is going to be, I would want them to tell me the truth. If somebody doesn't want to go to coffee with me, I'd rather they didn't go to coffee with me. That's not the type of relationships I'm trying to have with people. And most of the time, that's not the relationship they want to have with you. So really take into account, as you're trying to break this habit, how you would want to be engaged with. And I think that really starts to clarify the true intent behind people pleasing, because then you see, oh, this is about my sense of self-worth. I don't think people are going to love me and like me and want to be around me if I'm not doing what I think they want me to do. Is that really where I want to stay? Is that where I want to rest and continue to build my relationships? Okay, so that's the 6 components of why people-pleasing is not really a nice habit at all, and it's really preventing authentic, trusting, just healthy relationships from sprouting in your life. Now I want to get into the benefits of starting to tell the truth. So the first of those is, the truth is dynamic and it cannot be controlled. So the truth is the truth, right? And when you start when you let go of the habit of trying to control an outcome and you just show up and you speak your truth, you allow authentic, dynamic, spontaneous things to come into your life. And in that sense, you open up the greater wisdom of the universe. You allow things to come into your life that might not have come otherwise. If you're sitting there being small, telling everybody you like skydiving, pretending, you like food you don't really like, and pretending you're okay with stuff you're not okay with, you're probably going to have a pretty limited life and a pretty limited set of relationships where things just don't feel entirely real and engaged. But if you start speaking your truth and you start showing up and being present and authentic with people, you can start trusting yourself, and you can also let go of trying to control the outcome. If somebody doesn't want to be in relationship with you because of your truth and your real feelings and your real beliefs, that is not the right relationship for you. So when you start to acknowledge that, you clear the field of energy that is not the right fit for you, and you open up a space for things to be delivered that are way more exciting and way more beneficial than you could have ever imagined if you were trying out of your little ego to control the outcome by people pleasing. All right, so the next thing, number 2, is saying your truth is a risk that promotes self-trust and self-worth. When you are willing to say, my truth is worth being acknowledged, What I have to say, what my boundaries are, what my beliefs are, what my desires are valid. They're a part of who I am. They're an expression of my uniqueness. You're going to start to get some movement, right? Because you're going to start to believe that for yourself. You're going to start to feel the self-worth that is inherent in that form of self-expression. And you're going to start to trust yourself because guess what? You're not full of shit anymore. All right, so number 3 is it allows a space for relationships to organically fit. So, if you are right now surrounded by a bunch of relationships where you feel frustrated by how much you're giving and how little you're getting in return, and you kind of question and go, am I really willing to give this stuff, or am I bending over backwards with the expectation that I will be given the same kind of accommodation in return? And the answer is yes to that question. Then you're probably jamming your square peg is going into a round hole here. And it's maybe time to start being more authentic and more truthful in the way that you engage with your relationships. Okay, now the next one is, it is a huge relief to stop people pleasing. And I want to give you guys a little warning here, which is that when you stop people pleasing, typically people go through what I call the asshole phase. And that's a phase where you are keeping it real. It's like keeping it real goes wrong, right? Where you're keeping it real, but you're still in this position where you're not accustomed to speaking your truth. And so you're kind of doing it in this way where you're like, well, fuck you, I'm going to tell you my truth anyway, as though the other person doesn't want to hear that, or as though they're the impediment to you speaking your truth. So don't look at this as you're doing something wrong. It doesn't mean you're going in the wrong direction, but you might want to give people a heads up that you're learning to speak your truth and that it may take a minute, and that if it comes out crazy, it's not personal, it's not about them. It's about you learning to vocalize how you really feel without people pleasing. All right, I hope that you have found this video useful today and that you will hit subscribe and hit the bell if you would like to see my future videos. Bye-bye for now.